Og Mandino began a career that ascended from sales manager to a 15-year stint as editor of the Success Unlimited magazine. His crowning glory was writing The Greatest Salesman in the World. This book was written in 1968 and continues to sell 100,000 copies monthly. Og Mandino has penned 16 books, which have sold more than 31 million copies. And now, discover the greatest secrets of success with Og Mandino.
The most important secret of success that I had to learn the hard way is that life is a game. It's precious, it's holy, it's beautiful, but it's a game. And you can't play in that game with any chance at all of winning unless you know the rules. Slight problem. While we were growing up, nobody ever taught us any of the rules. Not once, not in primary school, junior high school, college, graduate school, not once. Did anybody even take 45 minutes to teach us how to set goals, how to motivate ourselves and others, how to handle adversity when it comes into our life, and it comes into all our lives, how to use our time profitably, how to get rid of the bad habits that we all pick up, how to accumulate wealth, how to handle stress, and so much more. And so most of us, we become spectators in this greatest game of all, pushed aside by the lucky few who seem to know what they want, and more important, who seem to know how to get it. The pros, the great performers, they're all down on the field where all the action, all the glory, and all the money is. And the rest of us, we're up in the bleachers watching them, and we had to pay to get in. So let's take inventory right now, this afternoon. Did you possibly learn anything during all those formative years of schooling that you could apply, say, starting tomorrow morning, if you wanted to make a real change in your life, no matter how good it is right now, if you wanted to make it better? You bet you did. You learned how to read with that one great ability that I know all of you have, the ability to read. You can work miracles in your life. Carlyle many years ago wrote, "What we become depends on what we read after all the professors have finished with us." The greatest university of all, he wrote, is a collection of books. And I have a very dear friend, a wonderful speaker, who bills himself as Charles Tremendous Jones. You might have heard Charlie. He's fabulous. Charlie is always telling his audiences, you will be the same person in 5 years as you are this afternoon, except for the people you meet and the books you read. I want to repeat that. It's that important. You will be the same person in 5 years as you are this afternoon, except for the people you meet and the books you read. So why not resolve to maybe make a slight change in your daily routine? The next evening that you're free, instead of sitting in front of that boob tube at home and just feeling sorry for yourself, why not get in your car and go down to the local library? Go on in, find that special shelf, that gold mine that's in every library, that shelf containing books on success, how to achieve it, and how to hold on to it after you get it. Walk up and introduce yourself to some of the most powerful and brilliant people who have ever lived. People like Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill, W. Clement Stone, Maxwell Maltz, Dorothea Brand. They're waiting. They're waiting right now as we talk. They're waiting to help you, to show you the way, to teach you how to change your life for the better. Slight problem, of course. You have got to get off your duff and go to them. Please do it. And if you have people under your supervision, suggest that they do it. It will be one of the best moves you ever made in your life. Another important and ageless secret that I had to learn with pain and tears, I had to learn most of these with pain and tears, little dents up here. Takes a little pain to get through. Is that you can never make any progress in your life or your career until you appreciate the assets you already possess. Now, I'm very sensitive and well aware of the fact that whenever I say that to an audience, I can always picture one or more out there thinking, assets I already possess. What's this turkey talking about? I got bills up to here. The car's falling apart. The house needs a coat of paint. The kids need clothes. They're talking about college. And this guy's up there talking to me about my assets. So let's make a list. And let's put a dollar value on some of the things you have going in your life right now, this afternoon, as you sit here listening to me. And let's put a real dollar value figure on this, and let's see how you come out. What's it worth to live in this great country? Where would you rather live? What's it worth to be associated with the fine company you represent? What's your career worth when you remind yourself that probably 95% of the world's population would gladly give up 10 years of their life to change places with you? Gladly. How about those you love and who love you? Come on. How much will you take to give them up? I dare you to put a figure down. Your eyes. Will you take $1 million for your eyes? Your hands, your feet. 5 million? 10 million? You're really quite wealthy, aren't you? And if it came to a showdown right now, this afternoon, you wouldn't change what you've got right now for all the gold in Fort Knox, would you? Several years ago, I did a television show one morning in Los Angeles, and on the panel with me, this was a live television show, was a very famous woman author, American woman author, and I won't name her. But somehow we got off talking about our kids. And I had just seen my last son leave home, and I hated these empty rooms. I wanted to keep him around forever. But she was off ranting and raving during our discussion, while the television cameras are going, about she had 2 boys, and the word she kept using was bonkers. These 2 kids were driving her bonkers. They never picked up their rooms. They were driving her bonkers. They had stereos tuned in both rooms to loud rock stations, different stations, of course. The sound and everything was driving her bonkers. The kids were driving her bonkers. She was going bonkers. I listened to her for 3 or 4 minutes, and finally I was rude, I know, but I interrupted her. And I said, you know, the day is going to come when you're going to walk down that corridor at home and you're going to go past 2 very quiet rooms. And then you're going to say, where did they go? So I said, when you go home tonight, why did you give them both a big hug and a kiss and tell them you love them, and for God's sakes, don't wait. You too, huh? Please, for me. Another old secret. You don't know how good you are. Wise men have been telling us now for generations that we're only using about 10% of our potential. Now, through the years, we've gotten very smart. We know how to play the game. When we hear that now, when somebody says to us, you could be a lot better, you only use about 10%, we nod our head and say, yeah, you're right. You got that right. Yep, you bet. We go right along with it. We know how to play. And when somebody else does succeed, how quick we are to think, wasn't he or she lucky? It's so much easier to feel sorry for yourself, isn't it, than to realize that you are really and truly the greatest miracle in the world. and you are in complete control of your own destiny. Nobody's pulling your strings for you. So many of us, I'm afraid, are like a lovely little duck we had in our home back in Scottsdale, Arizona, years ago. One day, many years ago now, my youngest son, Matthew, came home from grammar school carrying a shoebox with holes punched in the cover, which should have been all the warning we needed, that trouble had arrived. In the shoebox was the most adorable little orange duckling you ever saw. They had hatched this little guy in their biology class. They nurtured him for 6 weeks, and then they had a raffle, and my kid won the duck, which Mom and Dad said was just what we needed. So Matt and I, we went to the lumber company, we got some lumber, and thank God Matt is handy with a saw and a hammer, because Daddy isn't. And Matt built a great-looking little hut. He painted it white. He had a carved archway doorway, and over the doorway, in red paint, he painted disco duck. Daddy went to the hardware store, and I got an 18-inch roll, 18 inches wide roll of chicken wire, and we strung it around this hut so this little guy wouldn't go wandering off and get lost in the desert in Scottsdale, Arizona. We made a mistake. Well, we made many mistakes, but one of the mistakes we made was that we built this complex right outside Betty and my bedroom. And we had disco for 12 years, 13 years. Matt went off to college. And guess who became caretaker? And one morning, many years ago, we were awakened by dawn, before dawn, by a quack, 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 quack. Now, we've heard the quack for a lot of years, but there was something different. First of all, he never did it until the sun came up, but now it was still dark, and he's quack, 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 quack. And you could hear the complaining, you could almost pick up there was a complaining sound in this quack, 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 quack. Something was wrong. Disco was ticked off at something. Either the water in his pond had not been changed often enough, or maybe the straw in his hut was wet, or the food was lousy. Something was wrong. You see, Disco had a problem that many of us have. Disco didn't know how good he was. Disco didn't know that if he was unhappy with the conditions of his life, all he had to do was flap his wings and leave. But you see, poor Disco, he didn't know that he could fly. And neither do you. Neither do you. Another great truth President Kennedy told us this years ago is that life owes us nothing. Life isn't fair, never was, never will be. You might do the work, somebody else gets the credit. You may work twice as hard as your neighbor, and you know you're twice as smart as he or she is, yet you also happen to know that he or she are making twice the bucks you are. There are so many times when life deals us a bad hand. How do you play the bad hands when you get one? Do you hang on, refusing to quit, even though you got no guarantee you're going to make it? Or do you whine and pity yourself because you are positive that your problems are so much more terrible than anybody else's, you poor baby? Years ago, when I was editing Success magazine, I developed friendships with lots of editors around the country, and one of them was a man named Wilton Hall, who published a magazine called Quote. One day in the mail, no letter, no covering letter, no nothing, this card came from Wilton Hall. And that's about 30 years ago, folks. And this is still the same card. It's all beat up and scotch taped together. I don't know how many audiences I've shared it with, but I don't keep this around for you guys. I keep this around for Mandino. Because whenever I wake up and things aren't going just exactly the way I expected them to go, poor baby, all I have to do is spend about 4 minutes with this little yellow card, and the sun comes up again and the birds start to sing all over again. And let me share it with you this afternoon. It's called, Lord, Forgive Me When I Whine. Today upon a bus, I saw a lovely girl with golden hair. I envied her, she seemed so gay, and wished I were as fair. When suddenly she rose to leave, I saw her hobble down the aisle. She had one leg and wore a crutch. But as she passed, a smile. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 legs. The world is mine. I stopped to buy some candy. The lad who sold it had such charm. I talked with him. He seemed so glad. If I were late, 'twould do no harm. And as I left, he said to me, I thank you. You have been so kind. It's nice to talk with folks like you. You see, he said, I'm blind. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 eyes. The world is mine. Later, while walking down the street, I saw a child with eyes of blue. He stood and watched the others play. He did not know what to do. I stopped a moment, and then I said, why don't you join the others, dear? He looked ahead without a word. And then I knew. He couldn't hear. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I have 2 ears. The world is mine. With feet to take me where I'd go, with eyes to see the sunset's glow, with ears to hear what I would know. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. I'm blessed indeed. The world is mine. We all forget to count our blessings now and then, don't we? All of us. In any morning that you awake, and this happens to the most powerful, the most dynamic person you can think of, so it doesn't just happen to you. But any morning that you awake and you feel blue, and you don't want to go out there and face that terrible world, or you don't want to go down to the office and face that ugly boss, or you just don't want to do anything, you just as soon stay in your pajamas and get into the closet and close the door and suck your thumb. And trust me, this happens to everybody, even the most dynamic. I'm going to give you a prescription now that won't cost you a penny, and we'll take any kind of mornings that you happen to you in the future, that mornings like this, and you know they happen to everybody. They will happen to you again. When it happens to you, if you do what I tell you, the sun will come out, the birds will start singing, and the day will get beautiful all of a sudden. And it's as easy as this, and it won't cost you a penny. Okay. Next morning you awake and, oh, God, I don't want to do it. I just, you know the feeling. All you have to do is pick up your morning newspaper. Now, don't look on the front page, because if you do, you'll really want to go into the closet and hide. Do not look on the front page, but just open your newspaper to the page with the death notices on it. And on that page, you will find column after column of people who would be absolutely delighted to change places with you with your little petty annoyances and aggravations.